Back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. We're doing the season reviews, obviously 2024 season. The champions, the Penrith Panthers, have done it again and gone 4 in a row. Honestly, I could go through the stats, but there's no point anymore because it's just simply they're potentially the greatest team I've ever watched now, and especially for, I guess, our generation of football fans who didn't get the chance to watch the Dragons that always comes up when this debate is had. There's reasons, in my opinion, why this Penrith organisation and this team at the moment is the best we've ever seen with the salary cap era and the players they've continued to lose on a year-to-year basis. But we've got Sabs as well from the Supercoach Experience jumping on for this one, which really do appreciate, and Jakey Boy as well. Sabs, get your thoughts around the Penrith Panthers season, because it's just, I think so many doubted them once again this year. And again, they finished with the last laugh, holding that trophy up, and we start shaking our heads in disbelief.
Yeah, how many times through the year were we like, no, they can't win a comp once again, and they go ahead and prove us right, but prove us wrong, because I feel like everybody was just saying, we'll wait for finals footy, they'll just turn it on again. But the amount of times we just wrote them off, they are something special. We're witnessing greatness, and as someone who lives in Penrith, the aura around the city, you know, the players are just always around the same hotspots in Penrith, and you know they're just loved by everyone. It's a great kind of it's a great atmosphere to be around.
Jakey Boy, what are your initial thoughts around Penrith's season? It was just, it hurts as the big brother now of a Parramatta fan, that they technically the big brother now. But your thoughts?
Well, this will be hopefully the last time I say it for this year. But you've heard this a few times on pretty much every podcast I've been on when asked who's going to win the comp, and I've said Panthers. Didn't care if they were coming second, didn't care if they were coming eighth. They were always going to win the comp this year. When Dylan Edwards and Nathan Cleary were out for fair chunks of the season, or Nathan Cleary for a majority of it, and then Dylan Edwards for big chunks of it as well, and they finished in second place, I've gone, we are done. Because when they are back, it adds a whole nother element to the entire team. And you know, as soon as they came back, they never looked like they were going to ever lose at any point. During that grand final, even, I was never thinking they're probably going to lose it here. Just they're the best. They're the best side ever that has ever happened. I'm sorry, and being a Parramatta fan, I'd love to say it was us in the 80s, but I'm sorry. They have done 4 in a row. We did 3 in a row. You know,
Ray Price disagrees.
Don't give me any more airtime, please. It starts to become very, very cringe as a die-hard Para fan. Everyone knows that by now for myself, but I agree with what Jake's saying. He's talking way too much sense, the young fella there. So I'm proud of you, Jake. It's been sensational, and what a year. And there's so many ways to break this year down and to talk about it. The first point I want to make, when you look at Nathan Cleary and you see his stats, he's played 13 games this year. If you told me at the start of the year Nathan Cleary plays 13 games this year, I would have laughed out of the room and said they've got no chance of winning the comp. There's just no way in my mind they'll win the comp if he's only played that many times. His body's fallen apart. He's done for the year. He's done. He's come back at the right time of the year, torn the comp another one, and off he goes into the sunset, playing again a very vital role in a grand final victory. Sabs, it's crazy to think 13 games is enough now for this guy who, for mine, is head and shoulders the best player in the competition. It's just ridiculous.
He is, and every time Origin comes around, he's usually got an injury or something, and we all tend to question, maybe Mitchell Moses is the guy to go forward, but he just proves us wrong. Proves wrong, proves right. I don't know what, but depends on what side of the fence you're on.
Be careful who you're talking to here.
Yeah, exactly. I think he is by far. Like, they should start making him an immortal right now, because it's going to happen. And I know I'm going to live, knock on wood, touch wood. I'll see it one day. Him becoming immortal. And I'm just so speechless about it, because the stats speak for itself. I don't need to back it up.
Yeah. I'll come back to you regarding that point, because I think it's a pretty cool little point to talk about a bit further. But first, Jake, your thoughts around Nathan Cleary and his year. Again, it's only 13 games, but I feel like he had a vital role in every single one of those 13 games he played, because when he came back from that injury, he hit that field goal that was like 40-something meters out and iced it against the Dolphins, and then he got injured again. And then again, as I said, the final series, he just was the Nathan Cleary that we all cringe at because we know how good he is and we know how much it sucks versing him.
Well, I mean, it hasn't been now 3 years in a row where he's had a big injury in the middle of it. Like, has it not been 3 years in a row now where he's had a big injury in the middle of it, and then, you know, he's come back and just done the same thing again, like, just every time. I don't know. It literally leaves me speechless. It's just.
Last year he was injured, and then the year before he was done for that spear tackle on Dylan Brown, so he wasn't even injured. So like the fact that the first year he actually got a really good break from his body, fully fit, but these last 2 years have been a massive challenge because I reckon they've had tougher opponents these last 2 years in the Broncos and the Melbourne Storm, and he's come back. He's played.
He's stitching us up so hard.
He's got a good point, though. They blew us out of the water. I can't defend it.
Hey, that's fair.
Jake sometimes gets a little bit. Mate, you got to remember, this is a Penrith Panthers podcast at the moment. This isn't a Parramatta podcast. But I want to take you back, Sabs, to what you're saying. This is immortal talk, and it sounds absolutely crazy to even mention it. But the longer this goes on and the longer I think about it, the more it makes sense in the weirdest way possible that what you're saying is spot on. Like, it is inevitable now, in my opinion, he will be an immortal. He will be a Rugby League Hall of Fame. He'll be all that sort of thing. I know the one thing that people question is the Blues, and he hasn't really dominated a series yet as such, like we've just seen, I guess, Moses just do for him and win that series. But in my opinion, he's doing it on a week-to-week, year-to-year basis in the hardest rugby league competition, if not one of the hardest sporting competitions in the world. And he's stepped up on the biggest stage, which is the grand final now, 4 years in a row and got it done. Like, if he's going to become that, why don't we just do it now while he can sort of enjoy it? It sounds crazy. Yeah. And I know it's probably not the right answer and people won't like it, but why do we put it off?
I get why they're not doing it now, but like back to the dominating Origin and all the other stuff, I think a lot of people are inducted as immortals for different reasons, and I think that the most black and white definition I've been told for it, and that makes sense to me, is this player changed the game. And I think Nathan Cleary as a halfback, we understand now how important halfbacks are to sides and how important it is to develop halfbacks. I guess prior to Jonathan Thurston and Joey, like, halfbacks were still the main orchestrator of the side, but we didn't realize like how good an old head of a halfback is, especially with like Adam Reynolds going over to the Broncos and taking them to where they went. And, even Jamal Fogarty for the Canberra Raiders has been really good, but he's done this at 24, 25 years old. He's won 4 comps in a row, which hasn't been done in the NRL era. I think he's changed the game because of Penrith, and everybody's trying to replicate Penrith every single year, and they can't do it. They just can't match them. They can't keep up with them, and Nathan Cleary is the center of that. He's won 2 Clive Churchills, which is, I think there's only ever been one person to do that before. Not even Andrew Johns or Jonathan Thurston did that. So, and you know what? I wouldn't have been surprised if he got it for the last grand final as well. But I think it did go to the right person.
Yeah, and Jake, there's a number of players. We could go on for, honestly, hours about Nathan Cleary, but there's another player I want to give a lot of rap to this year who, because I guess of a late injury, sort of faded away in terms of how people rated his season, but I still think he had a huge year, and that's Dylan Edwards. He started absolutely on fire. He was so good this year until he got injured, and then it took him a bit of time to get back, and it felt like he was never quite that player again from that injury and kept playing injured, and it really affected him towards the back end. But then again, the grand final came on, and he was Superman. He was everywhere and racking up the meters galore. Like it was a really, really good season, one where he stood up and has now become, in my opinion, the best fullback in the game.
Yeah, just as well, I don't know how Nathan Cleary can be an immortal. He wouldn't make the Wigan Warriors side, so I don't actually know what you guys I actually don't know what you guys are talking about with that. But I'll move on.
That's good from you.
I'll move on. Yeah, Dylan Edwards. I would actually argue, other than for this season, because Nathan Cleary was obviously out for 13 of those games. Other than him, right, there were two players who I would say were the most influential in keeping their season on track. When Cleary was out, Dylan Edwards stood up big time. And I think he knows he can take that sort of back step to Cleary when he needs, when Cleary's on the field, and that's totally fine. He plays that supporting role. He stepped up a lot, and the other one would be, and I'm sure we'll talk about him in a second, is Luai as well. Luai obviously stepped up in a way that I don't think anyone expected, but that wouldn't have been possible without Dylan sort of doing what he does, and the work rate that he has literally just helps the rest of the team stay under less fatigue throughout the game. That's what allows him to sort of keep going. He just works all the time. He's consistently hitting over 200 meters running a game. That's him running it back at the line at 100% to get those extra 10 meters, to get those extra 15 meters he can get in the one period of time he can control, which is when the other team kicks the ball to him. He gets that ball back as quickly as he can because he knows how important that extra few meters is. That's the difference between ending on another team's 10-meter line or 15-meter line and ending where their try line is or scoring a try. He understands that, which is something that, a lot of other fullbacks don't get when they jog back into the line and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'd say other than maybe Luai, to me, he's the second most sort of influential player in that whole team.
And Mr. Supercoach over there, I know Dylan Edwards was key to have, especially early on in the game this year. I remember having him for a number of weeks and just sitting back, legs up on the table, just thinking, how good is this? He just kept going. But as a football sense as well, he matured so much this year. And as Jake sort of rightly explained, it did probably help that Nathan wasn't there and he was almost forced in a way to step up and be a bit more hands-on with this team in terms of control and the way he played. But he stepped up and he didn't place a foot wrong.
He was perfect every time that Nathan Cleary was out, and if Jerome Luai wasn't with the hot hand, it was Dylan Edwards. And I think this is just a testament to the Penrith side, the fact that Dylan Edwards can just turn it on like that. And the minute Nathan Cleary comes back, it's Nathan Cleary's team because, he can take us to grand finals. He can win grand finals for us. And I think that's just we haven't seen that in the modern era, just a team trust each other so much. We're in an era where everybody wants to be the superstar. They want to go on to earn more money at other clubs and become the superstar. These guys are just happy to keep doing what they're doing and play their roles because I think this is why this is a dynasty, because they are all superstars and they're all gaining in value, gaining in popularity. And it's just... it's so good. Dylan Edwards, he was underrated for such a long time, and now he's just getting all the praise that he deserves.
Yeah, he rightly does deserve it. And Jake, I'll let you start on Jerome Luai. You obviously got a number of things to say about him. I want to start with, let's peel back the curtains and remember at the start of this year when the Tigers were obviously chasing him and Ivan came out, and it was a bit weird when he did come out and say this because it was just sort of from left field from an Ivan sort of Cleary comments, but basically said that he didn't think he was ready to own a team and be that halfback role. And perhaps there was a little bit of games being played. He was trying to scare the Tigers off making that play, but it obviously didn't work. And then we got to see throughout this year, whenever Nathan wasn't there, Jerome just stood up, took control of this team. And goodness me, I've been critical of him in the past and I've not always rated him. And he's probably had me offside a little bit with how he sort of carried on in terms of social media. But I felt like this year, not just on the field, but off the field as well, he is very much matured and he's just become this sort of senior figure, not just for this team, but sort of in the game in a way. He's just all of a sudden now this figure where very much respected and he's got the respect. There's not much carry on now with his game, which there was always carry on rubbing everyone offside, where now you sit back and you talk about Luai, you go, what a bloody good footballer.
Yeah, look, I mean, same as you. Like I've had my criticisms of him, and when I found out that Nathan Cleary was injured and that he would sort of take control. Actually, I didn't expect him to go into the 7 straight away, but he did, and he took on that challenge. And to be completely honest with you, the early prediction for me is that the Tigers have actually made a bit of a masterclass signing, because he really showed what he could deliver at half, and I just did not expect it. Like I had no expectation for him to be able to run that side, and he has proved us all wrong, and he did. Like his kicking game this year was up there with the best of them. Maybe he doesn't have the distance that many others have, but obviously he doesn't need to usually with Nathan there. And hopefully that the other half, because he will have to take on a lot of kicking duties at the Tigers. I don't know how that's going to work, but I think what's the 5'8's name? Galvin. He's got a pretty big boot on him anyway. So I don't know how that worked, that kind of thing. But his sort of short kicking game is fantastic. He was putting the ball where it needed to be. And the one criticism I've had a lot of him is that he has that sort of tendency to step in when he doesn't see anything out to the side and kind of just dance around a little bit, which I didn't think would work in that sort of halfback role. But it kind of does, because it slows. As much as it kind of is a bit of it feels a bit awkward, it actually slows down kind of what the opposition's thinking about. It kind of makes them go like, what's he going to do? And they're not used to defending against something. Like most teams practice that defense and it's really fluid and it's coming at them quick. He kind of stutters that and puts them into a position where they might have to delay it a little bit and wait. And it kind of throws a lot of things off. So, I see it working at the Tigers, and I hope it does. I think they deserve to get out of the bottom spot finally. But I mean, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Tigers, and obviously I'm with you. I think it's a very exciting signing. I think for Penrith fans listening to this one at the moment, they'll be a bit gutted. They've lost one of their sons, their favourite sons, and a guy that's had a real big role in this dynasty that we've been talking about so highly of. And I guess in a way, he's been the backup dancer for a lot of this 4-year stint. But against Sabs, like he just stepped up this year when he needed to, and it effectively felt like Nathan Cleary, like I don't know the right way to word this, but at times it felt like Nathan Cleary was still there because of how good Luai was playing.
Yeah, I think in the past they have relied on Nathan quite a lot. I don't know. Your comment of saying Nathan Cleary still feels like he was still there has thrown me, because I really feel like he took a step in the direction of like he's learned enough off his last few years that he didn't need Nathan Cleary there. He played his own style of footy and it really worked. Their style of getting the backs to run for millions of meters and just tiring out the defense by, I think back to him stepping in, that's just purely tiring out defense by doing that. They're on the back foot, trying to backpedal, trying to just waiting to catch him, to tackle him, but they've got to stay on their toes because he's dancing all around the place and he's just tiring him out that extra bit extra. So I'm really excited to see him at the Tigers next year. You did say you're worried about the kicking. I know we're not talking about like a preview or anything, but I think Adam Dewey is a nice addition to the Tigers that does have a long kicking game. So I think he'll be helped out there. And I'm really excited to see him at the Tigers. But yeah, I got to chill a bit because I got work tomorrow.
Look, one player I want to give a huge rap to, and for mine, I'm going to go out and say he's my Golden Boot winner for this year. I think he was that good. Isaiah Yeo. I think he has been absolutely phenomenal this year. Consistent as all consistent to be, whether it was for Penrith, whether it was for New South Wales, whether it was for Australia. We got to see this guy that. And he played a prop sort of role for the Blues. He didn't play necessarily that 13 role, which he's become accustomed to. And it's funny whenever I talk about Isaiah Yeo and people get a bit weirded out by this and don't know what I mean. I think he's the best lock forward in the NRL. Do not get me wrong. He works in that Penrith system so well. He's the best in my opinion. He's not the best rep footy lock forward. If you can understand what I'm saying, I'd go as far as saying for the Blues when they're both fit, I'd have Cam Murray as sort of that 13 role every day of the week over him, just because of the style of play that it allows the Blues to play, that they haven't really worked well with that Penrith style we've seen over the last couple of years. But I just think this year, every time I watched Isaiah Yeo on the field, whether it was defensively, whether it was attacking and making sure the team was doing what they needed to do and they're at the right time and spreading it when they needed to, he just picked exactly the right time every single time. It was just, it almost felt like we were playing his game in a way. Like he was in control of everything and never putting a foot wrong. Like, Savs, what are your thoughts around Yo's season, and should I calm down a bit?
No, I think you're spot on, Isaiah Yeo. I just kind of think that because of all the superstars that play for New South Wales and play for Australia, he hasn't really got his chance to play his style of footy, which I really feel like they should build around. But I guess Origin is a different beast, and I think he's good enough to adapt. You know, he can play in the front row if he needs to. I don't mind Cam Murray going on an edge in Origin if he has to, but the fact that Crichton has come on board this year and killed it, that probably won't happen. But I get what you're saying. Like Cam Murray's just more up and down. You can predict when he's going to pass the ball, but Isaiah Yeo is just so perfect with how he does things. He plays things right until the last minute, and only the Penrith boys can read what he's doing. So you've probably got to put him in the front row for New South Wales. Golden Boot, I'm pretty sure is an award just for international footy, so I don't know if he wins that.
Yeah, maybe not.
If it was like an overall thing, I think he would be a good shout, though.
Maybe there. I guess I'm wrong there. Thanks, Savs, for reminding me of that one. You just forget. You've forgotten whose podcast this one is, but it's all good. Put the host on show. Jake, your thoughts around Isaiah Yeo, because I know you're huge on Luai and Penrith sort of player of the year, but I think Isaiah Yeo is right there and was just the glue that kept this side together all year, even when they had their stars who we've mentioned already that were out for extended sort of periods of time.
Yeah, look, I'll say this. In Clubland, don't get me wrong, I think that Isaiah Yeo is top 2, top 3 locks in the game. Easy. Like, you can say he's up in the top 3. You'd be hard-pressed trying to tell me that he's not when they've won 4 comps and he basically doesn't miss a game. Like,
he's number one.
And Lockrell's, well, exactly right. So I'd say the only player in that Penrith side other than Nathan Cleary who would have pipped him if they played every game like he did would have been Dylan Edwards. Personally, but you can't say that because he didn't play all the games. It's really tough for me because out of those 2 players, out of Luai specifically and Yeo, they're very different roles, but they both filled them really, really well this year. So it's such a difficult call to say who was necessarily the best player, but I think that with halfback being a bit of a harder role to play, in my opinion, that's the only reason why I have Luai over them there, considering he took them to staying in second place. Obviously, Yeo was there as well. And I think maybe I do underestimate how much he does in that ball playing role in the middle kind of thing, because I know that he does that. But I just think the reason I've got Luai there is because he did have to actually step up into the role, whereas Yeo's used to what he was doing. He didn't have to change what he had to do. Luai did. That's the only thing that's got me having him on top potentially for this year. But yeah, look, Yeo's he's actually kind of underrated. People don't talk about him as much as obviously those other players as well. But yeah, he's got that run in him that can carry you 10, 15 meters. He's got leg drive. So, there's that in and of itself. And then he's got the ball playing. So yeah, he's a perfect lock. You wouldn't want to play him anywhere else other than the only reason I like him at prop for the Blues is because I think that other players suit that role a little bit better. I actually agree with you in the sense that I think Cameron Murray, in terms of rep football and Origin specifically, I'd pick Cameron Murray there every day of the week. I really would. And I liked Yeo in that don't try and pass the ball, catch, run hard, do a prop roll. That's it. I liked it because it simplified his game and let the halves run the show in Origin, which is what they should be doing kind of thing. They're not Penrith in Origin. It's a whole different team. So that's what I think. Smash it, though.
And I love that for Yeo, the fact that he isn't that superstar that everyone talks about. I think that plays into his character in a way for this team. It suits him so much because he doesn't go out there and demand the respect or demand being that center of attention and being that guy that gets all the accolades, but it just naturally comes to him, which is, for me, that's what makes him so good. It's natural plaudits that we're all giving him. It's just like he'll get to the end of the game and it's very rare that a forward that's playing a role that Isaiah has played for this Penrith team for so long is the standout, because he's just that nuts and bolts. He'll just get up and down the field. Sort of, he's that glue, that sort of player that never gets accolades. But in a team of superstars, he's still standing out. Like, it's just, I don't know. I could go on about Isaiah for that long. It's ridiculous, but I probably shouldn't.
I've got a hot take, a little bit of a hot take. It's not a ridiculously hot take, but with Luai going to the Tigers next year, Luai's really been instrumental in filling that position for the Panthers for when Cleary's out, and he helped them stay in the top 4 this year. I think if Nathan Cleary's injured at all next year, I think we'll see Yo go to another level. Whether I want to say this in a way that doesn't sound ridiculous, but I feel like he's going to be the 7 that comes in without actually being named at 7, if that makes sense. So he'll still play 13, but they might put like a Dane Laurie there, or an extra middle forward named at halfback or something, just so him and Dylan Edwards can orchestrate the side. And I think if Nathan Cleary has enough time off next year, he's a really good chance of getting the Dally M medal.
Oh, I like that. I'm a big fan of that, to be honest. I reckon, you can't even gamble that anymore, Benny. I was about to say gamble responsibly, but you can't.
Man.
No, honestly, thanks a lot, brother. If you're still listening to the podcast, thanks a lot, brother. I really appreciate it. One last guy I want to give a wrap for before we get into some of these predictions. The underrated signing of 2025 is no doubt Paul Alamotti. Jake, take it away. Like, honestly, he was just, whether it was wing or center, he all of a sudden has become a superstar. And we all said it. I remember saying it in the offseason. I go, the Bulldogs, even though they've got all these great sort of plays in their back line, they're going to regret letting this one go, because it just was such a weird release, I guess, to go, this is the guy that we're letting go of. He just has so much promise. And as soon as he's put this black jersey on, or pink jersey, depending on what jersey they chose to wear, he was a freak.
Man, I couldn't believe it. When the Bulldogs let him go, I was begging the Eels to pick him up, because I just knew what he had, and he was playing such good footy for them until, they put him on the wing, and with their systems, it just didn't work for him. I think he's a center in and out. He should not be playing on the wing, personally. At the Panthers, you can get away with it because they just have the systems where you could probably play Isaiah Yeo on the wing and he'd probably score 7 tries, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I just think I saw this and I messaged my mate straight away, and I just went like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Is this going to be the signing of the year kind of thing here? And he goes, he said to me, like, I think when he starts making the side and he works out the systems and he gets into the side 100%, which he actually was right about that. I thought he jumped straight into the side for some reason. But I think losing Taylor May midway through that season just was the perfect opportunity for Alamotti to come in, who personally I think is just as good. Who got to come straight in and show what he had, and just basically not lose that. He lost it, I think, straight after because someone else came in or whatever they did. But then he basically held it for the back end of the season, and he proved why. Even at the Tonga, for Tonga over the Pacific Islander games, like, he's just developed over one season using the Panther systems and that into this absolute freak of a player.
They really missed him in the back half of that game on the weekend. I thought he was a huge
yeah, absolutely. Good, because he's such a damaging center, and he has the build to play center perfectly, but he also has the brains to not, just be that sort of dumb big center that doesn't do the right things and makes the wrong calls and that. Like, he just has the body to do the job. What's that?
Connie Harrell.
Oh, sorry.
He's got the body to do it, and he's got the brains to do it, and he could be. I'll put one out there. You did a hot take, so I'll throw one out there. He could be Dally M Center of the Year next year, I think.
Honestly, I love both hot takes so far. I've got pressure to come up with something in this episode, so let's see. Sabs, your thoughts around Paul Alamotti?
Yeah, I like it. I think the fact that he didn't start the season set a precedent. You're not just stepping straight into this side, and that's. Keep an eye on Blaze Talangi next year. I think something similar will happen. He won't go straight into that
we know.
5'8" role. They'll probably start with like Brad Schneider or Jack Cole or something. I actually don't mind the look of Jack Cole. So,
Me too.
Blaze Talangi can potentially go into an outside back role, maybe that vacant wing spot. Casey McLean killed it on the weekend though. So they've just done it again with their signings for next year. But Alamotti, I cannot believe no one picked him up, because when Penrith picked him up, obviously he was at a point where it was like, oh, is he going to kick on or not? But it's just so typical for Penrith to pick him up, because you just knew what was going to happen and how it was going to turn out. And, I'm glad to see the Bulldogs do what they're doing, because I feel like they're going to turn into a club very similar. But the good talent in the NRL, a lot of it is going to waste if they're not at clubs like this. So I'm so happy that the Penrith Panthers exist, the Melbourne Storm exist. I actually think the Roosters are not very good at it. They kind of retain talent and just let them sink or swim. But these systems that are really building up players and helping them reach their full potential, I think that they should be rewarded somehow, because, and I guess they are by all the fans going to their games. But yeah, it's just
from
crazy.
Success.
Yeah, exactly.
Just by having success. Yeah, just that's how you get rewarded. You get wins.
Yeah, exactly. And they're getting rewarded by getting wins. So, Paul Alamotti, great season. Topped it off with playing for Tonga on the weekend. Or did he play, or you got dropped for? No,
he played. He got injured. He got injured during the game, which was a big blow for Tonga. I thought that they sort of really, the game was done. I thought once Paul Alamotti got injured, and unfortunately, because I thought he was really doing a good job on that edge, and I think he had to cover Tommy. I think he was on Tommy's side, and he was doing a decent job, to be honest with you. Like, we all know how good Tommy can be.
I'm sorry to put you on show again, but I think.
Sorry. He had the Manly bloke. He had Cooler. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
that's twice in a row.
Just too many red jerseys. I got mixed up. It's been the off season. It's a long season, guys. I'm ready to hang up the podcast, the microphone for a couple of weeks and get away. But it's all good. It was funny because we talk about Paul Alamotti and we just say how good his rise was this year, but it also came, I guess, for a bit of a down light for the season for Penrith, and that was the Talon May incident and losing him. And we talk about Paul Alamotti and how good he was and the Raps. Let's not forget the Raps that Talon May sort of had about sort of this time last year, and there's a lot of talk about he'll be that guy this year for Penrith and he'll step up, and how good it's going to be him on the outside of Cleary or Luai, wherever side he ends up on, and he'll just be so damaging and that sort of thing. So it was obviously like what he did and stuff, and he deserves to get sacked and that sort of stuff. Don't condone that, but it's just so scary. This breeding ground that this Penrith team have. The Casey McLeans can come in. The Paul Alamotti on a cheap deal can come in. The Blaze Talangi next year can come in. And they've just lost a young guy that so many people in the last 12 or so months had rated so highly. Like, Penrith, whatever you're doing, just stop for a while, please. Give us a chance.
Yeah, just quickly on Taylor May, I think it was a blessing for them this year, but I think for next year it could have worked better for them. Like, if Taylor May was there playing on the wing, I think he would have been the perfect replacement for Taruva, because Taruva is going to be a loss initially. That Casey McLean will fill into that nicely. But I think it also hurts that they potentially could have gone for Terrell May if they still had Taylor. And I think that would have been a nice buy, but maybe your blokes will snap him up.
Oh, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen there? That's
I'd hope so.
It's our weekly news sort of show that we do there. We'll discuss that again, but yeah, we're not too sure what's going to happen there with the May situation. It's a weird one.
It's funny findings at the moment. Just quickly, there's nothing happening. Like the Gutson one happened, but it feels like it's not going to happen too quickly, doesn't it?
Benny Hunt's taken a while. Apparently, he was very keen to get out and had something organised, but yeah, who knows? Anyway, let's get into the rapid fire questions for Penrith. A key moment of the year. I'll take us away here. Obviously, it's an easy one. It's the grand final. It's the grand final for mine. Getting it done once again. again, they were against the Storm outfit that so many had predicted would be the team that was the last team that won the grand final and coincidentally beat Penrith before this run happened. A lot out there predicted Storm would do it again this year, but Penrith had other answers. And look, for 80-minute contest, it was basically Penrith that controlled that game for pretty much that whole game. So that's a credit to show how good this Penrith side and performance was on the grand final, the biggest stage of the year. Sabs?
I won't be boring and say the grand final. I've heard some talk that the loss against Canberra late in the year, they were getting complacent, and that loss late in the year, it was Parramatta last year that really kicked him into gear, ready to go for finals. I think that loss against the Raiders, they always have one that time of year. It just helped them propel into the final series, and they had a flawless final series against the Sharks and Roosters. No one played better in the final series than them, and I think that loss against the Raiders was something that the other team should really hate the Raiders for.
I was about to say, if Ricky was not hated enough, he just added an extra bit of hate to him because he's the one that's poked the bear and woke him up. Thanks a lot, Ricky. We love you, brother. Jake, what was your moment of the year for Penrith?
Oh, look, mine would be the grand final, but I'll just do something different just to make sure that I'm doing something else. Mine will be the signing of Blaise Talangi for 2025 to fill the void that Luai has left. Just for the fact that they needed a player. I mean, they'll work him into the systems and they'll sort him out, and he'll become a freak of nature is my prediction. Basically, just to fill that slot. Yeah, it does hurt. It does hurt still, but
still hurts. Well. Anyway, moving on. Surprise packet of the year. Sabs, you can go first for this one.
I won't steal Jake's one, so I'll let him have that one in his boy Alamotti. I think I'll go Luai because I was at the start of the year with that Tigers signing. I wasn't sure how it'd work out. I actually rated Luai a lot better than a lot of other people did. But I didn't know if he was ready to take a 7 role. And I think the fact that he stepped into that position, I'm actually really excited for the Tigers next year. So I think Luai was the surprise packet of the year.
Jake?
Funny that you've said it was going to be Alamotti because I don't agree. I actually think he wasn't a surprise. I expected him to crush it. So,
that's good.
To me, the answer actually would be Luai as well, to be honest with you.
Nice.
I agree completely with that. Yeah, I expected Alamotti to come in and just smash it. Maybe not to the extent that he did. So, you could probably say it's a surprise in that. But, yeah, to me, Luai he really proved me wrong. That's what I would say surprised me. Yeah.
I tell you what, I was going to say the same, but I'm not going to be the same. I'm going to go different. I'm going to go Lindsay Smith. I think he's come on really well this year. Obviously, got that Australian debut on the weekend, which was rightly deserved in a way in terms of just his season. I felt like has just continued to build up throughout the year. And there was a lot of talk on Liam Henry, and rightly so, at the start of the year being this young guy that's coming through the grades that I felt like a lot of people forgot about Lindsay Smith, who's been there now a couple of seasons and just sort of been that worker that gets his work done. But in a way, he's taken on a lot more responsibility in terms of minutes and just what the role he is playing on the field, I think, this year. And he's started to play a really key role. And I know, look, I'm never ever going to say he's going to replace Fisher Harris. That's not going to happen. But he's definitely someone there that's going to lessen that blow in a way to losing Fisher Harris from next year and beyond. For who needs a big 2025, Jake? And tell you what, it's hard to say this after winning 4 in a row, but who's a player that needs a big one next year?
This one's really hard for me. Well, actually, no. You know what? Honestly, I'd actually have to throw Blaise there because I know that he hasn't actually even gone over and played a game there yet. But there's so much pressure that's been put on him to come over and be this 5'8" to fill the gap that Luai's kind of left, and that's a big gap to fill. And if he comes in and he shows the defensive deficiencies that he showed against England and for Parramatta, well, that might be a big issue for Penrith, to be completely honest with you. I don't know if they'll until he fixes his defensive kind of issues that he's got. I don't know whether they will play him or not. So that's to be seen.
Penrith fans, please don't bombard me after you listen to this episode with hate. It's Jake saying it. He's trying to turn a Penrith podcast into as much Parramatta dropping as he can. This isn't on me. I'm not responsible for this one. Just make sure when you send the hate in, it's directed towards Jake, and I'll just forward it off to him in the group chat.
I've got the script right here. This is the script that you gave me. I'm using the script that you gave me.
Honestly, for mine, the player that needs a big 2025, I got Isaac Tungo. I think he did come good in the last couple of games, which most of the Penrith team did. Coincidentally, we know they've done that, but a lot of this year, I felt like he was really just. It's hard to say not there because obviously he was there playing and stuff, but just wasn't living up to anywhere near the sort of hype that he's had over the last sort of 18 months or so at that club, and being that guy that steps up. I just felt like his season, when you go back and look at it, wasn't exactly where probably he would have liked it to be for being one of those main strike weapons out wide for Penrith, the Savs.
Tungo was on top of my list, but also I feel like he came good and he is a good player. I think just through the year he showed some deficiencies, but interesting one. You've got to pick out of a really good bunch, but Scott Sorensen, I think he came onto the scene last year and started at second row and did a really good job. And I thought he was going to go to another level, but this year just quite didn't kick on. Injury did disturb him. And you've got Luke Garner there performing really well, and it will be tempting to put him in there. And it will be tempting with James Fisher-Harris out of the side to put him back into that middle rotation because I think he did that really well when he came into the Penrith side initially. So I think he's got to assess where he wants to be as a footballer, whether he wants to be an 80-minute edge or whether he puts his hand up to go on the bench for the side. So, yeah, I think it's a big year for Scotty Sorensen, and I think he'll come out the other side pretty well because I rate him really highly as a player.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to see how they go about that next year because there's obviously been a lot of rumours this year. Once they knew Fisher-Harris was leaving, that even someone like Liam Martin might go in the middle. I think that personally is crazy, but that's potentially some talk, especially after the season that Liam Martin's had. There's no way I'd personally be moving him, but I'm not going to question.
Worked really well, I reckon.
That's the thing. The thing is, I personally wouldn't, but at the same time, I can see it, and I can see him just being an absolute mad dog in the middle, just absolutely tearing it apart and crunching blokes and just being that non-stop person. So who knows what Ivan's going to do. He's obviously got plans, and no one's ever going to now question Ivan again about anything. So he's got a free pass for almost the rest of his coaching career. Last one, player of the year for the Penrith Panthers. I'll let you go first, Sav.
Yo.
Yep. Just that's all it needs. Jake?
I'll say Luai.
I'm going Isaiah Yeo as well. Isaiah Yeo for mine has to be the player of the year. That's it. Thank you very much for listening again. Make sure you go and give Sabs from the Supercoach Experience some love. Yeah, just go and give him some love. If you haven't already, I don't know if you haven't, you're living under a rock, but best Supercoach stuff out there. Go and give us love. I believe at the moment he's going through some of the predicted lineups for next year as well, which is always cool. Everyone loves to get involved with that sort of post. So go ahead, get involved there. Let him know your friendly banter with those sides as well. I'm sure he will embrace it as well. But Jake, thank you as well. Thank you, Penrith fans, for listening to this episode. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button. Go find us on social media as well. Do all that jazz. But yeah, good luck. You don't need it, but good luck for 2025. I sure as am hell not doubting anything that your club does ever again. So yeah, well done.